So what does life really look like if you retire with $500,000 versus you retire with $1 million or you retire with $5 million? I've been a financial advisor for over 20 years now, and I've helped people in all three of those categories. And in today's video, I want to share with you what the differences in lifestyle are for those folks. So let's jump in. I'm going to introduce you to three characters, each that have this amount of money and kind of tell their story. So first up is Alan. And Alan was a mechanic at a local manufacturing facility for 30 years. He worked hard. Unfortunately, his company did not have a pension. They had a 401k. He did a good job saving up money. He's married. He's got 2 kids. He was able to pay about 50% of the college expenses for each of his kids. But he retired with $500,000. And between Social Security and what he's taking out of his investments, he's bringing in about $50,000. Now, Alan represents half of all Americans. Half of all Americans have under $500,000 saved for retirement when they reach retirement age. And the median spending for a household in retirement in the United States is right at that $50,000. Actually, it's a little bit higher, $58,000. So Alan is your average American. And I think his story is really important. So what does his life look like? If you ask him, hey, Alan, how's your life? He's likely going to say, it's great. I'm very comfortable. I'm enjoying life. And Alan gets to go on a vacation once or twice a year. He usually drives on vacation for one of those and goes by airplane for the other one. He's got a car at 7 or 8 years old. His wife has a car that's about the same age. They're dependable. They like the car. They're really not car people. And really what they want is just to know when they turn the key, the car is going to start. They own a modest home in a working class neighborhood where they have a lot of friends, and other people have lived in their neighborhood for, in some cases, multiple generations, and in many cases, 20, 30 years. And he really likes his neighborhood. It's a modest home. They'd love to be able to remodel their house, but the estimates came in that it was going to be $50,000 to $100,000, and they just didn't want to spend money doing that. They go out to eat a couple times a month. They usually have cocktails at home before they go out to eat, and they do look for 2-for-1 coupons and early bird specials and things like that. And so do their friends, and they make that a game. They have fun with that. Like I said, they typically have cocktails at home. They typically don't order a bottle of wine or cocktails at the restaurant. They do that before or after going out. Now, one thing Alan really wishes is he wishes his health was better. He's been surprised by how expensive Medicare is. He thought Medicare would cover all of his expenses, and unfortunately it doesn't. In fact, Fidelity tells us that the average 65-year-old, unfortunately, needs to set aside $150,000 during their lifetime from 65 plus for costs that Medicare are not going to cover. So he and Alan's wife are likely looking at $300,000 between them over their lifetime for healthcare expenses. And that worries Alan. So, he wants to work out more. He wants to eat in a more healthy way. He doesn't have a lot of money for that. He's hesitant to join a gym. He's not sure that he would use it, and he doesn't want to spend the money for that. And he'd love to be able to help out his grandkids and set up a 529 account for them to help pay for their college, but they just don't have the extra money to do that. So, they give the kids $100 on their grandkids $100 on their birthday, and they do what they can. They spend a lot of time with their family. They spend a lot of time in their community. Their retirement really is about giving back, about being part of the community. But his number one worry is healthcare. And frankly, he'd love to be able to leave an inheritance to his 2 kids, but he's not sure he's going to have money left over to do that. So a hypothetical stress meter on a scale of 1 to 10, Alan would probably tell you he's a 6 or a 7. So he doesn't live a worry-free life, but he's not too worried about too many things. He's very grateful that he and his wife, they started saving when they were 40. They wish they had saved earlier, but they're very, very grateful that they saved the $500,000 that they did. And his life feels fairly worry-free, although he knows if he has an unexpected expense, that's going to be difficult, and he'll likely have to spend money that he wishes he could have saved for the future. So he is a little worried that he might run out of money during his life. lifetime. And then he's worried if he needs long-term care at the end of life, he or his wife, are they going to be able to pay for that out of pocket, or are they going to have to go on Medicaid? Okay, that's Alan, and Alan represents, again, half of all Americans. Now I want to introduce you to Mike. And Mike has $1 million. And at $1 million, that puts Mike in the top 3% of all Americans. Mike was a product manager at a local tech company. He was good at what he did. He started saving in his 30s, and he can't believe it. He actually did it. He was able to save $1 million. He was able to retire. He's collecting a nice Social Security check. In fact, between Social Security and his investments, he plans on spending about $75,000 a year, which puts him pretty close to the bottom of the top quartile for all retirees being able to spend $75,000 a year or more. So what does Mike's life look like? First off, he's living comfortably. He doesn't know that, fewer than 10% of all Americans retire with $1 million or more. But he's really proud. He can't believe he's actually a millionaire. He's living his best life. He has a house in a nice neighborhood. It's not the biggest house, but it's a nice house. He and his wife, when they got ready to retire, said, you know what, we've been living in this house for 20 years. Let's do a remodel. So they had somebody come in and give them a quote for good, better, and best. A good remodel was going to be $50,000, better was $75,000, and best was $100,000. And they said, you know what, let's spend the $75,000. Let's get a couple niceties. They could afford to do that. They buy, as far as their cars go, they buy a new car about every 5 years, and they kind of trade that off. So every 2.5 years, one of them's buying, either Mike or his wife is buying a new car. One of the cars tends to be a fancier car. The other one's just a dependable, basic car, like a Ford Taurus or a Toyota Camry, something like that. And they're really happy. They set up a 529 account for their grandkids, and they're able to put some money in there. They're hoping that they'll be able to pay 25% of the kids' college education by putting in money on a regular basis into that 529 account. They do enjoy going out to eat. They go out to eat a couple times a week. And when they go out to eat, they enjoy a nice bottle of wine with their friends. And they enjoy going out to eat. But they do realize while they're taking care of their health, while they go to a health club, they're getting older, and they realize there's some other things that they should be doing. They'd like to be able to cook more healthfully at home. They'd love to be able to have somebody come in once a week and help them with that, but they just can't. Occasionally they splurge and have one of those meal prep companies ship by FedEx to them a meal that they prepare at home. So this is kind of what their life looks like. They're hopeful that they'll be able to leave each of their kids about $250,000 each. If things go well, they'll be able to do that. If things don't go well, then, they may not be able to leave an inheritance, but their financial advisor says they should be able to do that. What they'd like to do for fun is they're involved in their community as well. They go on 3 or 4 vacations a year. Typically, one of them's to Europe, where they have a lot of fun. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much that costs. So the other 2 or 3 tend to be in the United States. Oftentimes when they go on vacation, it's to visit family and friends. So they're kind of affordable vacations. And as far as the stress meter, what would Mike say the stress meter is on his retirement? He's chilling at a 3 or a 4 out of 10. So he occasionally has financial worries, but overall he's feeling pretty good. He knows that if there's surprises that come up, he'll be okay. And then our last person is Rick. Rick is retiring with $5 million, and he's really excited about that. He was an entrepreneur for 30 years. The first 10 years of him starting his company was hard. He and his wife worked in the company. They weren't making much money. They were getting by, but they weren't able to save much. But then after the first 10 years, things started to get easier, and they were making more money, and they were able to catch up such that by the time they were getting close to retiring, they had saved up about $2 million. And then Rick was thinking, the best time to sell my company is while I'm still healthy. I don't want to wait too long. And they were fortunate they were able to get $3 million for their company. So that's a total of $5 million. And Rick is for sure in the top 1%, likely even higher than that. And when they look at their income, they're going to be spending about $350,000. They're going to wait to collect Social Security so that they can get the maximum. Both he and his wife are going to get $40,000 a year in Social Security. They're at the high end of that. They're going to wait till they're 70, and they're going to get kind of the maximum benefit. Not quite, but pretty close to that. They also have some rental properties that are going to help them out. So with $5 million, Rick and his spouse are living very comfortably. They go on many vacations a year, 7, 8, 10. A couple of them to Europe, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. They're flying first class. They splurge for that. They buy a new car every couple of years. Both of their cars are really nice luxury type cars. They've worked hard and they're really glad that it all paid off for them, because sometimes with entrepreneurship, many times it doesn't pay off. So Rick and his wife are also very grateful for their situation. They were able to fully pay for their kids' college education. Now they're looking at their grandkids. They have an estate planning attorney. They feel that there's a high likelihood they'll be able to leave both of their adult children $1 million. And they're going to be able to set up an education fund for the grandkids. So they're feeling really good about that. Both Rick and his wife are in phenomenal physical shape. They have physical trainers at the gym. They have somebody that comes by the house once or twice a week to prepare healthy meals for them so they don't have to worry about that. They're taking a lot of vacations. In fact, Rick would say they're taking too many vacations. Sometimes he just wants to stay at home. And they're thinking about buying a second home in Newport Beach. They have a rental property that they rent out near the town that they live in, but they really like going to Southern California, getting away from the winter, and their thoughts are they could sell their rental property near where they live. They could buy something in Newport Beach. Yes, it would cost more money. They'd probably have to put in an additional $1 million, but then they could rent that out when they're not using it. So they're thinking about doing that. They have a very active social life. They belong to a local country club, golf country club, where they live. And if they bought this home in Newport Beach, they were thinking about buying into the yacht club there, even though they're not boat people. They don't own a boat, but it would get them in the social circle that they enjoy hanging in Newport Beach. So what's their stress level? From a financial standpoint, they'd say, it's close to a 0 or a 1. They know they're not going to have a financial issue that'll come up that could derail their plans, that could really put them in a bad spot. They know they don't have to worry about that. But they have other stressors in their life. Frankly, they're probably a little too busy. They're too involved in things. As I said earlier, Rick really wishes sometimes they could just hang at home. They have a lovely house, but they never get to spend time there. But, all three, so that's kind of what the $500,000, the $1 million, and the $3 million, $5 million looks like for people when they retire. But all three of them, Alan, Mike, and Rick, they still have life problems. Money can't solve all your problems. In fact, I'm stating an adage here, but there's a quote: if money can solve your problem, you don't have a problem. And what that means is, unfortunately, getting old is not for the faint of heart. We have a lot of serious things that all of us have to worry about, one of which is our health. And at some point, probably the death of a spouse or depending on who passes away first. But again, getting old is not for the faint at heart. So yes, it's nice not to have these financial worries, but it doesn't mean that they don't have any worries. And speaking of health and getting the most out of your retirement, I think being thoughtful and deliberate about when you decide to retire is one of the best things that you can do before you get to retirement age. And that's why I made this video up here: why waiting to 65 to retire might be a big mistake. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.